Hi, welcome to my review of Evil Dead 2. Just getting back now to my Evil Dead review series. I really wanted to go and see Rise when it came out, but unfortunately life just got ahead of me at the time. And before seeing that, I really wanted to get round to seeing all of these movies again in the franchise and doing individual reviews for all of them. So I've decided just to carry on and go through all of these leading up to Rise. So yeah, anyway, Sam Raimi's second film, Evil Dead 2, this came out 6 years after the original. And it's kind of an interesting setup for a sequel in that, as well as being a sequel, it's also a remake. He basically remade in the first section of this film is a quick, fast cut through remake of the original. And then the second half of the film is effectively the events that happened after that. And this one is generally considered to be most people's favourite in the franchise. It's got a little bit of a different tone to it. It's got more comedic elements in here. It's kind of a horror comedy, whereas the first one was just a straight out and out horror. And you can definitely tell there is a little bit of a tonal change in this film, which obviously worked for a lot of people because this film has been highly praised throughout the years and probably as being the best film in the franchise. On this recent rewatch though, I actually enjoyed Evil Dead 2 a lot more than I remember. For some reason, whenever I rewatch this, I never leave it that fondly. And I've always thought it's kind of because of that tonal change, bringing in more of the slapstick comedy here. Slapstick isn't really my thing, to be honest. So for this kind of horror setting and like the story they were setting up as being a cabin in the woods, I much preferred that to be an out and out horror. It's great if they can find a good way to put some comedy elements in there, like they did in the first one. But here you can definitely tell there's quite a tonal shift between the first and the second. But I will say about this one is the first half of this film is really great, and I really got myself invested and enjoying myself watching this. And it's kind of where we're shown Ash, where he kind of becomes the iconic character that we know him for, that he becomes in the later bit of this franchise. And when it's him fighting against all the possessed demons and stuff in the house, it's a great way for Sam Raimi and all his film crew to show off all the insane practical special effects work they've used here. And there's just a lot of very memorable, unpredictable and standout sequences, which I really enjoyed. Particularly an insane scene with Bruce Campbell where his hand becomes possessed. Absolutely love that. And there's also a really great scene when all of this madness is kind of coming to a climax, and he's in the room and all of the furniture and the ornaments start laughing. he's just going into a hole of absolute craziness. I love that. So the first half of this film I really have a good time with. The problem with this film is the second half, I really think it loses steam. Basically, where that whole group of other characters turn up, they kind of try to tie in the story with, how the girl's dad kind of knew about what was going on because he'd listened to the readings from the book and whatnot. That those characters, when they arrive, the film does go a little bit downhill for me. And I think because, well, number one, this group of characters are really annoying. They're just so loud, so obnoxious, and just screaming, not much dialogue, and it just becomes a little bit frustrating to listen to. And you're not really given enough of any of these characters to become interested or care about any of them. It's basically just, to give the film another load of characters for these demons to start harassing, basically. And for me, I just find that it's nowhere near as interesting and engaging as the first half of the film. I think maybe it starts to become just a little bit more repetitive in that second half, whereas in the first half, there's just scene after scene of really creative, unpredictable ideas and sequences playing out on screen. Whereas when the second half, once this group's here and you've got this one possessed person under the trap door and kind of how the scenes play out with them, it becomes a little bit more repetitive for me. I do like though, the finale sequence is extremely ambitious and very wild, and I do quite enjoy it. Although what I will say is one thing I did notice watching this again is, to be fair, this is a 35-year-old movie, but you can tell they started to get they were using a lot of digital and special effects and green screen and stuff at the end of this movie. And it dates the film much worse than the first one, I think. I think with the first one, because they were limited to basically purely practical, for some reason for me now, it just looks a little bit better. Whereas here, there's definitely some scenes towards the end where I do find myself wincing a little bit with all the digital effects work that just, it doesn't look good by today's standards. And it does take me out of the moment a little bit just because of how old these effects look, really. Again, doesn't spoil the end of the film. It's still, you say, it's a very, very ambitious, very cool ending. I do like the medieval setting and how it sort of leads into Army of Darkness. I do enjoy that. It's just, I couldn't help but notice, especially after watching one, how much more those effects work have really dated for me. So overall, definitely still a really enjoyable film. Again, as I said, it's one that every time I revisit, I do get a little bit more enjoyment out of. And, you know, it's a well-made film. It's an interesting film to go back and revisit. And, you know, you can really admire Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell and the kind of work and effort that was obviously put into a project like this. Because, you know, at the end of the day, this was a low-budget film. And it's extremely creative and has a lot of interesting things really going for it. I just wanted to kind of talk about all of my reasons as to why it, you know, the first one for me just works a little bit better. But I'm still going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 rating. So thank you very much for watching my review of Evil Dead 2, and do stick around if you're an Evil Dead fan, because as I said, I'm going to be going through every film in the franchise all the way up to Evil Dead Rise, and I'm looking forward to giving you all my thoughts on the new film. So please do leave me a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.